There's splashing, and there's a theme that I'm pleased has started to happen with Nick Caserio really over the past 2 seasons. It's that he's still sticking to, by and large, short-term contracts for guys. It's just he keeps upping it a notch in terms of caliber of free agent.
Yes.
So, last year he went from hiring journeymen to he started starters, still on 1 or 2 year deals for whatever reason. This year, particularly with Danielle Hunter, who was one of the very best pass rushers in the league last year, and Danico Autry, who was one of the best defensive linemen in the league last year, really over the past few seasons, except they're old. They're in their 30s. Now, Danico Autry, much older. He's going to be 34 this year. But Danielle Hunter will be 30. And still, though, very much in his prime, but on a 2-year contract.
Yeah.
Like this, it's the perfect blend of getting an impact player who can help your team now, especially with veteran players where they're proven in various systems and what have you. They're proven. It's just a question of, all right, we got to manage. We don't want to sign a guy. We don't want to sign a 30-year-old guy to a 5-year contract.
Yeah.
So you get him to a 2-year deal. Whatever decline there is, it's less likely to be a precipitous fall.
Yeah.
And bam, you've got action.
You got action. And the 2 big moves yesterday, I think, fit exactly what you're talking about. I think the Joe Mixon move fits what you're talking about in a way.
Right, short term, yeah.
Yes. And let's lay out the particulars here, because there probably are people just tuning in who maybe don't have all the information yet, maybe just got push notifications about it yesterday from Odyssey or whatever the case may be. Danielle Hunter, yesterday, early evening, agrees to a 2-year, $49 million deal, $48 million guaranteed. So it's 2 years, it's $24 million a year for 2 years for one of the premier edge rushers in the NFL. And then earlier in the day, right after we got off the air, as the running back market continued to dwindle, as Aaron Jones signed with Minnesota down to Joe Mixon and Derrick Henry at that point, and the Texans make a move, one of the types of moves we had alluded to during the show yesterday, where a team puts out there that we're getting ready to cut this guy, and they probably get a couple phone calls like, hey, don't cut him. We'll give you something for him, and we'll take on the contract. And that's exactly what the Texans did with Joe Mixon. They send a conditional 7th-round pick, basically nothing, to take on the last year of Joe Mixon's contract. It's going to be about a $6 million cap hit for the Texans, but it's just for 1 year. And so with these 2 moves, Seth, to your point, you don't get caught up in a 4-year, $100 million deal, $100 million plus, like the Raiders did with Christian Wilkins, and I love Christian Wilkins, but that was pricey. And you don't get caught up in a 3-year, $37 million deal with Josh Jacobs or Saquon Barkley. You get Joe Mixon, a running back who's been doing it now for 7 years, on 1 year. And I tweeted this yesterday after the Danielle Hunter deal, because you're absolutely right about the approach that Nick Caserio is taking. I said, you could plunk Nick Caserio down working for Jim Crane and he wouldn't skip a beat. They're very, very, very similar philosophies with these 2 teams.
Yeah, and I think that I guess the difference in football compared to baseball is you can sustain a pipeline. I think you can rely a little bit more on the draft in some ways with football, because so many guys from the later rounds end up working out, what have you. But whatever. Between those 2, there's a very similar philosophy, and just being okay with spending judicious and strategic in how you do it. You want to do it with pinpoint accuracy. And I think some of this is borne out in the reason that I feel good about this so far is just the fact that the Texans, who are starting to now garner praise as having a great offseason, this, that, the other thing, I take that with a grain of salt. They're not spending exorbitantly. In the various categories that you can measure it, whether it's total free agency spending or average per year or what have you, they're around 10th in total spending, despite having a boatload of cap space. So they're being very careful in how they throw this money out. The stuff that always makes me nervous is the teams that just go ahead and blow everybody else out of the water with their spending. Like the Patriots 2 or 3 years ago, 2 years ago, when they made their huge splurge, they were by far the heaviest spenders in free agency, and some of that ended up being stupid money. So, like, the Texans are being aggressive, but they're trying like hell to avoid just throwing out all the stupid money where you end up, where 2 years from now you end up thinking, oh, like, wow, we actually can't just spend everything we want all the time. Oh, crap.
Yeah.
Now we gotta shed good players.
Yeah.
Like you're avoiding that scenario down the road.
Yep. All right, so that's the fiscally responsible part of this whole thing. The Texans, I think they've gone about it over 2 days here. They've gone about it the right way. As far as these two players go, let's start with Hunter. This is now about as fearsome a duo of edge rushers as there are in the NFL, I would say. I haven't gone through the other. Danielle Hunter, who was a 16.5 sack guy in Minnesota last year, now coming on to a DeMeco Ryans defense. You've got Will Anderson, who was a defensive rookie of the year, 7.5 sacks, but was consistently winning one-on-one battles, one-on-two battles at times, and got most of his sacks in the second half of the season. So he was playing. The ankle kind of hurt him at the end of the year, but he was playing some of his best football at the end of the season. So this is about as fun as it gets for Texan fans when it comes to getting after the quarterback.
And Sean, like, you have to add Danico Autry into that mix. Yes. He had 11.5 sacks last year, and he's been steadily consistent. The last 3 years, he's had at least 8 sacks per year since he's been with the Titans.
Great point.
J.J. Watt on October 26th had tweeted this out, so well before he knew that number 99 Danielle Hunter would be a Houston Texan. He says Danielle Hunter deserves more credit than he gets. Currently leading the NFL in sacks. Currently leading the NFL in TFL. Averaging 10 sacks a year since he came into the league. A consistent, solid player who is having a hell of a year. So J.J. Watt was already a big fan of Danielle Hunter.
So does he get to wear number 99, do you think? Does J.J. give his blessing for Danielle Hunter to wear number 99?
It's a hell of a question. I wonder if this is one that has to be handled delicately. Mm-hmm. I don't know if somebody from Katy text in and tell us whether Danielle wore 99 in high school. Like, how much emotional attachment is there to the number 99? And B, maybe when you first broach the topic with Danielle, maybe try to present it in such a way of you can forge a whole new identity for Texans fans. I don't know, number 98, so you could be right next to number 99 in the Ring of Honor someday or what have you.
I wouldn't want to wear it if I were Danielle Hunter. I wouldn't want to wear 99. I would leave it be, and I would get my own number and my own Texans identity here. That's what I would do.
This is one thing I'd like to know, maybe we find out along the way, is where this Texans offer stood competitively with other offers. It's a boatload of guaranteed money. So it's only 2 years, but it's a boatload of guaranteed money. So for a guy like Danielle Hunter who's 30, I could see where maybe there was another offer for more total money, but if it was longer, he might have chosen, okay, I'll still be 30. I'll be entering my 32-year-old season the next time I'm a free agent. So there's that chance that he got this fully guaranteed 2-year contract. But I also wonder if this is one of the first real notable big-time guys that the Texans had an edge on because, A, he's local, and B, because the Texans just have a completely different MO and reputation now than they did 2 years ago.
Yeah, there was a lot of that the first day of free agency of people going, hey, guys, where's this whole people are going to want to play for DeMeco Ryans and play with C.J. Stroud thing that you were talking about? I think we had a promo running where one of us, might have been Clint, was saying that DeMeco Ryans was going to be the big weapon in free agency. This is it. Danielle Hunter, that's your answer. That's the signing. It didn't happen on day one for a signing like that. Although Danico Autry, to your point, is a very under-the-radar signing, I think, for $10 million a year. Let's make sure we get to Mixon in the open here. We haven't talked about Danielle Hunter yet. What do you as lead back?
I think Joe Mixon, honestly, one of the most boring stats about him, except one that is definitely relevant for what's worked for this team and with your young quarterback, is that amongst running backs who've had over 1,200 carries, I believe, in the NFL, he's got the fewest since the year 2000. He's got the fewest fumbles, like incredible ball security.
That ain't boring to me, man.
No, he's a machine in a lot of ways. And I think in another part of that, aside from his ability to just he runs aggressively. At times he's almost a little too aggressive to where he gets out over his skis and doesn't have quite the balance, but he's still very explosive, very consistent, has worked in different schemes. So whether you want to run zone, whether you start doing more man, whatever, it doesn't matter. he's very adept at running multiple schemes, and he's already very familiar with this variety or this scheme right now.
I think that's the big thing right there, because I think a lot of Texan fans have PTSD from trying to watch Dameon Pierce navigate this thing this year. Fear not. Like, Joe Mixon's been in this scheme. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to put his foot in the ground, do all that good stuff. I'm mildly surprised they did the deal for Joe Mixon, just based on the priors. And I know it was 10 years ago. Thank you for everybody pointing that out to me, retweeting the tweet I had that said that the incident at Oklahoma where he punched the woman was in 2014. Thank you for replying to my tweet where I said it was in 2014 by telling me, Sean, that was 10 years ago. I know, and I'm fine with the deal, by the way. I'm just pointing it out. Like, this is out of character for the Texans a little bit to take on a player who has, and I'll give Joe Mixon credit, like nothing like that has happened since then. He hasn't hit anybody. You know, like there were some weird things that happened last year that he was acquitted of, but nothing like that has happened. By all accounts, in Cincinnati, he's been a model citizen through most of his time there. So I'm cool. If the Texans have done their due diligence and are cool with the deal, I'm cool with the deal. That's where I'm at.
And you know, like without, like, if you really need like at least 30 minutes on a podcast to do the entire topic subject, do it justice.
Yeah.
I think the fact that he was a teenager when that happened, and then when you start to get into the weeds with all of it as well, you start to get into various degrees of like a really bad thing. And without going there, it's just that it wasn't. Whatever. So anyway, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
The Texans are okay with it. I'm sure that Nick will get a question or three about that at some point along the way. And that's something that I'd like to talk to a couple people from Cincinnati about. It's something that the Texans are doing where I think maybe in the past, whether or not they even thought that the circumstances were okay, they would err on the side of, hey, we want to have as squeaky clean an image as possible, so we're not even going to take it on. And I think that's where the difference lies. Is like, okay, if you as a team make the decision that, we trust this guy's character, we trust that he's matured, he's gone through this thing, now they're willing to take on that PR burden, where I don't think in the past, maybe 20 years, the Texans, I don't think they were willing to.
I was mild surprised, but I'm fine with the deal.